Good morning and welcome to your Financial Empower Hour. This is Jason Cryderman with Great Lakes Investment Advisors. I'm here with my awesome co-host, Mr. Tony Shore. Tony, I can't believe it. We were talking just before the show. It's been at least 4 to 6 weeks since we recorded our last show. So
Yeah.
all of my listeners and all my viewers, you've been hearing or seeing replays of some of our last awesome shows that we've done over the last 3 to 6 months or so. So I
Yeah.
have to give a real big shout out to you, Tony, to all my rest of my listeners, my viewers. I hope you had a awesome Christmas, a blessed new year. Here we are as we record this. It's January 12th. We're already into the second week, almost third week of January by the time this show airs. I can't believe it. It's been too much time, too fast. It just goes by like it's amazing, right? Time, the concept of time blows my mind. It's one of the things I just can't fathom and figure out the hands on the clock, the hours in the day. But here we are. We're bumping into the second and third week of January 2026. So Tony, bring me and my listeners up to speed on how were your holidays? How was Christmas? What'd you do with the family? How was New Year's? What have you been doing so far yet into January of 2026?
Yeah. Well, over the holidays, Jason, like many of our listeners and viewers, I got to spend some good time with the immediate family. All three of my kids and their significant others were home, and now they're all graduated from college, all three.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yep, it is. And just our youngest is still living at home.
Okay.
But applying for jobs. She just graduated in December.
Good for her.
And she was in a 2-year program, and the other two gainfully employed, got their own places, all taken care of. Of course, my oldest is already married, so that's all rolling really nice. But it was great to spend more time with them over the holidays, and I really got a lot of stuff done. I know what some retirees say. I'm busier in retirement than I have less time in retirement, and I'm busier than I was during my working years. Well, I always take the week of Christmas and the week of New Year's off. So with those 2 weeks off, we didn't travel anywhere. So I got a lot done, but every day there was something to do. Bring the dog to the vet, a doctor's appointment. The plumbers came 3 different times to fix different things. I had
plumbers aren't supposed to visit that much in a year, Tony, let alone in a couple of weeks.
Oh, let's not talk. We're not talking about it. We're not going to go there.
Okay,
but
we won't go there.
But the good news is it's done and fixed. Our plumbing should be golden for the rest of our lives. So there you go. But yeah, I got a lot done. My wife was even like, "You got a lot done during your time off," and I'm like, "Yeah, now I need some time off."
Right. Now I need time off to enjoy, right?
Yeah. But actually, it was great. And as good as the holidays were, I always look forward to the first week in January every year, because you and I get to hang out at one of the biggest financial conferences there are. And it's every year, the Gradient Summit. This year it was in Arizona, beautiful location, Scottsdale. And we had so much fun. I really enjoyed it. It's where the top advisors from around the country get together. There are about 500 plus people there this year. It was a big one. And we got to hang out. It was a great time. I thought there was a lot of great information. John Taffer from Bar Rescue.
Yeah.
If you've never seen that show, watch it. He also has 3 or 4 amazing books out. He was one of the keynote speakers, and he motivated me. I'll tell you what, he's kind of a tough talker. He doesn't mince words. I'll tell you.
No, he doesn't. So, John Taffer, for my listeners and viewers, the Bar Rescue guy, he was one of our 3 motivational guest speakers, and he was awesome. And I was actually telling my staff, I took my whole staff out there, as you know, Tony.
Yeah.
So Amy and I left on Tuesday, and then the staff came out on Wednesday. So that's why one of the reasons we didn't record last week was we were getting ready you were heading out to Arizona. I was heading out to Arizona.
Yep.
But yeah, so I was telling my staff before Mr. John Taffer came on stage, I said, I wonder if he's going to chill it down a little bit from what you see on his shows, the Bar Rescue. Because on the Bar Rescue, that boy is hardcore. He's cutthroat. He is intense. He's, some people would say an SOB. I mean, there's no holding back, right? I mean, his job is to come in, analyze and assess what the heck's going on, good and bad, and help you fix it. and just he's very raw. And so I was asking my staff, I wonder if he'll tone it back a little and be more politically correct. The answer is no.
Yeah.
Tony, because you were there.
It was
But for my
great, though.
viewers and listeners, the answer is no. He's very intense, very passionate, very loud, very boisterous, very high energy. He was awesome. He was great. Sheely was another speaker. He was awesome about great ideas. Like just have all the ideas
so
you could
good.
possibly have, and don't ever think there's a bad idea. And you might have 50 ideas and only one sticks to something, but ideas are great. Ideas are creativity. Don't shoot them down. Don't let anyone else shoot them down. Just throw your ideas out there. Who knows where it could go? And then we had Danica Patrick. Danica Patrick was the only female, NASCAR and Indy driver, won the Indy 500. She was a speaker. I thought she was awesome.
She was
there was
good.
a time or two there, now she's promoting some of her wine. She owns a couple of different wineries, and she owns 3 or 4 other businesses, and she's an entrepreneur, and she's a guest speaker. And on stage up there, some of her stories were great. And I told my wife, I said, I think she's getting into a little too much of the wine, because they were having a glass of wine on stage. And I thought, oh, Danica's on a roll. She's really getting into the bottle up there, but she was phenomenal and awesome. And we had an opportunity to shake her hand, her and John, get pictures with both of them. So that was wonderful. It really was a great experience. And as you mentioned, Tony, anytime we can go to those conventions, and it truly is the top advisors in the country. There's about 200 advisors from Gradient Investments out of like 600 advisors that qualify to go to this elite advisors conference. And the cool thing is we're allowed to bring spouses, to have them get more involved in your successes, as well as our team, our staff. And this is the second year I've taken my staff out there, and because that's really what it is. It's an awards and accolades of, look, here's all the hard work, the dedication that you and your team have put in. And this isn't all about me, Tony. And I've ever told everybody that, like, there's myself and 5 staff members I have, and I couldn't be half the advisor I am, half the person I am, if it wasn't for that team and staff behind me. So I always want to bring them out so they can meet everybody. They can be involved in that awesome, wonderful experience. And it is a congratulations, not only for the hard work that we've put in over the last 12 months, and the production numbers and all those things are great, but at the end of the day, it really is how we've been able to have such a powerful impact on families' lives. And it's really a step back and reflection of, we did all these numbers, but think about the people. Think about the retirees. We've actually helped retirees achieve their goals of being able to retire, and then have an awesome, successful retirement, and have awesome comfort and security into retirement, still grow their assets, get the income they've always needed for the rest of their lives. So they never have to worry about what happens if I have to go back to work? What happens if I can't accomplish my goals and dreams? How do I make sure my kids and grandkids are set up with legacy and wealth transfer? And so being able to, step back for a few days and get out of the trenches and go out there with a lot of other advisors and be kind of reminded that, yes, we do great things as far as production wise, but it's more humbling and more satisfying to me, Tony, to reflect back on how many lives I've truly been able to have a phenomenal, powerful, positive impact into and through an amazing retirement. And so, again, I want my staff to be part of that, and that's why I bring them out there. And of course, then you get to meet them face to face, and all the people at Gradient Investments. It's awesome, and we get to network then with the top 100, 200 advisors across the country, share ideas, and those are always a great time. And so that was last week. And you and I just spoke before the show and said, this is kind of a rough Monday because we had the holidays and we were off. And then we had Arizona. Man. We were out there for a few days. But now we got to get back to work. We got to get back to the grind. You and I are both back in the office. We're both swinging full swing, full throttle. That was the kind of the mindset out there, was full throttle. And it's a tough Monday, though, to get back in this swing after being off for so long and kind of having to relax and, spend some great time with the family over the holidays, just like you did. And I don't think I got as much accomplished over the holidays. Sounds like you were very productive. I was a little more less productive. I really just relaxed and chilled, spent time. Lexi came home from college and she was home with us for a month, and just really spent some awesome quality time with my kids and my wife and the neighbors and with some of my extended family and my dad, and just really relaxed. Didn't get a whole heck of a lot done. But that was our goal. That was our plan, is just to reflect and relax. And we had a great time doing that. But like you said, now we're back at it. And this is kind of a rough Monday to get full throttle back in the swing of it, Tony.
Yeah, and you have to basically full throttle out of the gate after
Absolutely.
being gone for 3 weeks can be a little tricky. You kind of feel it, but it's good to get back in the flow. And I was excited about doing the show today because it has been a while, and I feel you've got a great topic for our listeners out there, and that's some bad advice that people are still listening to or following as far as their retirement goes. And we're going to talk about the worst retirement advice that some people are still giving out there and following, and that's not a good thing. So we're going to get into that, but before we do, we'll start that our next segment. We're going to start that, and to end this segment, let our listeners know how they can get a hold of you, Jason. I know you're offering a no charge, no obligation consultation if people want to call you up and set up a meeting to talk about getting a solid financial plan in place.
Yeah, well, that's a great point to make, Tony. A lot of people listen to me on the radio and they said, "Yeah, I don't know if Jason can help us or not. I don't know if we need help, first of all, and then can Jason help us?" And a lot of people come to me that have been referred to me from a lot of our other clients, whether they're friends, relatives, neighbors, whatever it might be, and they say the same thing. Gee, number one, we don't know if we need help. Number two, Jason, how can you help us? And so I always tell people, look, I don't know the answers to that either. Number one, you might not need help, and number two, I might not be able to help you. So we offer what's called a portfolio stress test and second opinion. And that's exactly what it is, Tony. It's just simply a second opinion on what people are currently doing financially. And I call it a stress test or an MRI or an X-ray. And what it does, it takes a look at all your current holdings, your 401ks, your IRAs, your Roths, your annuities, your mutual funds, everything you have today. And it's no more than a simple snapshot, an X-ray or an MRI, if you will. It says, here's where you are. And that's a great place to start. And there's no charge for that, Tony, as you mentioned. That's complimentary. I'm willing to invest a little bit of my time and my team's times to do these things for people. Do the due diligence, determine, first of all, what road are you on? Are you on the right road, or are there some what I call problem areas or opportunity areas within your current portfolio? And if there's some problem areas or opportunity areas, those will show up on your second opinion, on your X-ray, your MRI, your stress test. And then I'll go over with you how you could fix the potential problems or take advantage of and capture those opportunities. And then you can go on your own and do that if you'd like, or go back to your current advisors or what have you. Or I would also show you at that time, here's how I can help you. Here's how myself and my team can help you take advantage of those opportunities and fix some of those potential problems. We'll talk about the fees and all that good stuff. So, Tony, that's exactly what it is. There's no cost. There's no obligation. It's simply a second opinion, a snapshot, an X-ray, if you will, on what's going on today. That helps you determine, number one, do you have any problems? Are there any opportunities? And then we'll talk about how we might be able to help you with those. And then it's your decision what you should do after that. So, in order to take advantage of this no cost, no obligation stress test and second opinion, just give our office a call. You can schedule either a phone visit with me initially or an office visit. There's no charge for either one. My office here in Midland is 989-835-7203. Again, that's 989-835-7203. 7203. Again, it's no cost, no obligation. We can have a phone call. We can do it face-to-face here in my office with some fresh baked cookies and a cup of coffee. Just again, simply to help you identify what road are you on and help you tell yourself, are you on the right road for a comfortable retirement?
All right. And listeners, we're going to be right back with more of your Financial Empower Hour and our host, Jason Cryderman, right after this. You're listening to your Financial Empower Hour. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore, here with Jason Cryderman. And Jason, today we're talking about the worst retirement advice that people out there still follow. And, most people, I think, get a lot of this advice from friends, family, and coworkers.
Yes.
And so I know you hear these things from people and you want to set them straight to make sure they have the retirement that they want and they have a solid plan going into retirement. What's number one on the list?
Well, before I jump right into it, I want to kind of, you did a great job, Tony. People get a lot. They're doing a lot of things currently. Number one, it's advice they've received from friends, relatives, neighbors, coworkers, or maybe it's even from current or previous advisors. And it's easy to just keep the ho hum, keep doing what you're doing, right? Just keep plugging along. And most people I've met over the years, Tony, they're doing okay. They're doing okay, but is okay truly in your best interest for you to have the best possible retirement ever? And I go back to kind of a saying that my grandma always used to say, and you probably remember saying this. I've actually found myself guilty saying this to my kids. It's what you don't know can't hurt you. How many times, Tony, did you say that to your kids when they were younger, run around the house and they're asking you questions and you're busy and they're bothering you? You're like, don't worry, what you don't know can't hurt you. Well, my grandma used to say that. I remember telling my grandpa that. I remember telling me that. And I really relate that a lot now to people and their money, people in their family, whether it be estate planning, taxes, financials, whatever it might be. What you don't know can't hurt you. Let's think about that for a minute. It's 100% wrong. It's 100%
right.
Capital B, capital S. It's BS.
I'm glad to hear you say that. I thought you were saying
100% wrong.
I was hoping you weren't going to say.
Nope. It's what you don't know can be hurting you, can be actually devastating your family financially, legally, tax-wise, income-wise. What you don't know about your money, about your estate planning, about your financial planning, about your tax planning could be devastating you behind the scenes. It absolutely could be. I've been doing this for 23 years. I've seen it more times than I'd like to even fathom and let people know about. But how do you know? You get a second opinion stress test. You get an MRI. How do you know health-wise if there's something going on in your body? You go to the doctor and they run tests. How do you know if there's something wrong with your car? You take the mechanic and they run diagnostics. It's better to get diagnostics and those tests done to identify things ahead of time so you can be proactive, right? But the old, hey, what you don't know can't hurt you. Well, then you're probably doing just okay. And a lot of these advice things we're going to talk about today, these topics, people are doing them just simply because they don't know that it's not in their best interest.
Right.
They don't know that there's something better. They don't know that there's a different way or they have choices or options. So I'm going to challenge every single one of my viewers and listeners right now. I challenge you to think about everything you're doing today. Get a second opinion stress test, whether it's from me or another fiduciary advisor you trust. Get a second opinion to find out what out there don't you know, because it's just true. We don't know everything, right? We know what we know. We know what we're doing. What you don't know could be hurting you and your family, could be devastating you behind the scenes. And I rather see you identify that now, identify it early and ahead of time, and then be proactive to start working on those things. Are there things you're currently doing today that just aren't in your best interest? Well, wouldn't you rather find out before it's too late? Are there things you're not doing yet and taking advantage of, opportunities you're missing out on? Wouldn't you rather find out now before you sit back and be like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that was out there? Because what you don't know can hurt you. And it is hurting a lot of people out there today, Tony. So we're going to jump right in. As you mentioned, the topic of today is, we called this show the worst retirement advice people still follow. And I think, again, the reason they follow us just because they don't know. They don't know there's anything else out there. So we'll kind of go through an itemized list that you and I have shared together. But the first one is very common for retirees. And it's I'll call it the value their Social Security will play in their retirement. Because a lot of people have heard or are told Social Security will cover most of your needs. Social Security will cover most of your retirement income. And what I've found over the last 23 years, Tony, is that's not true for most people. Now, some people, some families, so depending on your lifestyle, depending on your income needs, depending on your expenses, all those things, Social Security very well may support a good portion of it. But what I've found over the years, Tony, is Social Security really replaces only a small portion of income. First of all, it was never designed to be a full retirement income plan. Social Security was never meant to be your primary source of income during retirement. It was a supplement to supplement your income. And what I found the reality, Tony, over the last 23 years of being a fiduciary advisor, what I found is Social Security typically replaces about 30 to 40% of pre-retirement income. So let's think about that. That's how much money you're making before you retire. Once you get into retirement and you trigger Social Security, what I found historically is it replaced about 30 to 40% of pre-retirement income. And many retirees, Tony, they actually need about 70 to 80% of their pre-retirement income to support their lifestyle into and through retirement. So if you need 80% of your pre-retirement income, and Social Security is only going to supply you with 30% of that on the high end, you still need 50% of your pre-retirement income to bridge the gap, to allow you to retire comfortably and confidently and not have to go back to work part-time or go work another 2 jobs, whatever it might be, to pay the bills. That's not retirement. That is not retirement. So that is kind of one of those, geez, I just didn't know. I didn't really know what retirement was going to cost me. I didn't know it was going to be 80% of my pre-retirement income. Well, that's where you need to get a portfolio stress test and second opinion done on what is your pre-retirement income? What is your lifestyle going to be like in retirement? What are your expenses most likely going to be? And we'll talk about in a few minutes here, additional expenses that are hiding around that retirement corner that a lot of people aren't aware of. They don't think about in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, but they're expenses that will creep up on you and compound later in life and be added to your retirement income that if you don't plan properly for them, they can blindside you and really hurt you financially. And again, that's that, well, I didn't know, can't hurt me. What I don't know can't hurt me. No, what you don't know could potentially be devastating you and your family legally, tax-wise, and financially.
Wow. Great point and well made. I think that's so important. And again, you're right. Social Security really typically on the high end, 30 to 40% of your income is covered by Social Security or will be. And it depends on your situation. Could be less and maybe a little more. It depends on your situation. However, if our listeners have questions and want to get a plan in place, want to find out exactly how much they're going to need and how much of that Social Security will cover, all they have to do is pick up the phone, give your team a call at Great Lakes, right there, Great Lakes Investment Advisors. That number is 989-835-7203. Again, 989-835-7203, or they can check it out on the website, which is Great Lakes Investment Advisors.com. And you're listening to your Financial Empower Hour. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore. I'm here with the man with the plan, Jason Cryderman. And Jason, great show so far today, talking about some retirement advice that people may still be following that just isn't going to cut it. What's number 2 on the list?
Yeah, so it's that retirement advice, right? Whether you got that advice from a friend, a neighbor, a relative, maybe even an advisor. And I always go back to, what you don't know can't hurt you. Well, unfortunately, what you don't know financially, legally, tax-wise can hurt you quite a bit.
Or what you don't know can hurt you. That's for sure.
Or your spouse, if you pass away, it can devastate your spouse or the kids and grandkids after you pass away. There's a lot of different variables. So we talked about Social Security, that sometimes people get bad advice or they just didn't know how much or how little it was actually going to last in retirement or pay for of the retirement lifestyle. But number 2 is a big one, and it parlays right in with Social Security, right? So I'll spend less once I retire. I've heard this time and time again. Well, I won't spend as much when I retire. Mm-hmm. I won't spend. And again, what you don't know can hurt you. The old saying, what you don't know can't hurt you. Remember, I said that's BS, capital B, capital S.
Yeah.
People that think they'll spend less in retirement, that's probably BS. You probably need to have a reality check that you, historically, at least what I've experienced with the retirees, that families I've helped retire and live an awesome retirement into and through retirement, they tend to spend as much, if not more, especially in the first 5 to 10 years. And so I break it up into 3 categories, Tony. We call it your go-go years, your slow-go years, and your no-go years. So think about it for your first 5 to 10 years of retirement. Those are your go-go years. You now have more time on your side. You now, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, that's your time now. That's free time. You don't have to worry about leaving for vacation Friday after you get out of work at 6, 7 o'clock at night, coming home Sunday to get ready to go to work again Monday. You come and go as you please. You have more free time on your hands. You got the retirement bucket list. You got hobbies. You have old hobbies you might do more of. There's other hobbies you might pick up as new hobbies. You might volunteer. You'll do that more. So you're go, go, go. Achieving those retirement dreams, that bucket list, that's your go-go years. During your go-go years, you're going to spend money because all that stuff isn't free, right? You're going to spend money. Before, between 8 and 5, Monday through Friday, you weren't spending a lot of money because you were busy working and making money. Well, now if you have that much more free time, during our free time, we're going to do more things that chances are we're going to spend more money.
Yeah.
So I tell everybody in those go-go years, that first 5 to 10 years of retirement, historically, my experience has been plan on spending just as much, if not a little bit more. And if you don't spend it, that's all that much better to keep in the portfolio for later in retirement. But don't set yourself up for failure, right? Plan on spending as much or a little bit more than you spent before retirement, because you'll have a lot more free time on your side. You'll have maybe healthcare costs, you'll have travel, you'll have hobbies, maybe home expenses. Now you're going to start doing some remodels or some updates or buy a second home. A lot of things you might do that you didn't really think about, and it all costs money. And then you go, I mentioned our go-go years. Then you go into your slow-go years where you slow down a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Maybe, hey, been there, done that, getting a little older. The knees are starting to ache a little, right? So we slow down. We don't go as much. So generally in your slow-go years, you would think you wouldn't spend as much money, but healthcare costs, there's other things later in life, home expenses that very well could creep up on you. And then eventually you go to your no-go years, and we make a joke of it. We say, well, your no-go years is you don't go nowhere but the bathroom or church. And so we joke about it, but think about that in retirement. Your go-go years, first 5 to 10 years, you probably want to plan on spending just as much, if not more, than what you did before you retired. And then your slow-go years, you'll slow down a little, maybe it won't spend as much. And then your no-go years, but there's other things in life, healthcare expenses, inflation, bread, all those things that very well could go up in cost. So you might end up spending just as much, even though you're not doing as much.
Yeah. Oh, that's a big one. I think I used to think that, I'm not going to spend money in retirement. I'm going to be retired. But you pointed something out to me once, Jason, that I won't forget. You said, Tony, what day of the week do you spend the most money? And I said, well, right now I'd say probably Saturdays, because I'm hitting Home Depot. I'm we're eating out, going to the movies, doing this, doing that, doing projects around the house that cost money. And then you told me, but Tony, in retirement, every day is a Saturday.
6 Saturdays and a Sunday. I believe I told you, Tony, that my grandfather, before he passed away, when he retired, we said, Grandpa, what's retirement like? He said, retirement is 6 Saturdays and a Sunday.
Yep.
That's exactly it. So think about that. The day of the week that most of us spend the most money before retirement is Saturday. It's the weekends. Well, now retirement is nothing but weekends. Nothing but weekends.
6 Saturdays and a Sunday. That's right. You always say that. And
there's a good friend of ours. Let me add this to that. So there's a good friend of ours, Tony. And once I say it, I'll probably throw my dad's name out there so you know who he is. But there's a good friend of ours, my dad, named Carl Cryderman, that he said, let me add to what Grandpa said. There's 6 Saturdays and a Sunday, and it's always 5 o'clock.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know what he meant by that. I don't know what he meant by that. If it's
always 5 o'clock
work, or there's a country song says, hey, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Right.
Maybe having a beverage. But yeah, it's retirement is 6 Saturdays and a Sunday, and it's always 5 o'clock.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, let's do one more here before our next break. What's number 3 on the list?
So number 3 really pertains right into the investments. Okay. So let's talk deep about where our money's invested. And I've heard over the years, my experience has been a lot of people say, gee, I should probably move everything into bonds or cash when I retire because I don't want to experience the stock market losses. I remember 2008 when the market was down 38%. I remember the beginning of 2020 when COVID hit and the market's down 20-some%. I remember in 2022 when inflation reared its ugly head and bonds were down double digits, stocks were down double digits. I don't want that risk. I should probably move it. No, that probably is not the best advice either. Now, where your money's invested should be custom tailored to you and your lifestyle, your risk tolerance, your income needs. Not just because, well, my neighbor did this or my aunt did this or my friend at church or my hunting. No. So where your money's invested should be 100% tailored and custom right to you. And I don't believe it should be 100% in stocks or equities. I don't believe it should be 100% in fixed income either. The reason you might not want to move everything into bonds or cash when you retire is, well, that's just not a smart idea, I don't think, financially, because it might be too conservative. Yeah, you might not risk losing money when the market goes down, but you could have interest rate risk that will negatively impact your bonds potentially. And you could also have purchasing power and inflation risk, meaning if you're not keeping up with inflation, especially if inflation rises a little like it did a few years ago, you're going to lose purchasing power. Now your dollar's worth 50 cents. You can't buy half the stuff. So I truly believe most retirees need a continued growth in their portfolio, Tony, because retirement hopefully can last 20, 30 years or more. And so you want to make sure your money's there to last as long as you do. No, I don't believe you should have 100% of it in equities at the highest level of risk, because you don't want to wake up someday in retirement and lose 50% of it. But you should have a nice, balanced, comfortable portfolio based on your income needs, your goals, your risk tolerance. And you should always be reviewing that so you can adjust whether you need more income, the market took a little dip, or maybe interest rates rose. So again, when you work with a trusted fiduciary advisor, you should have a plan custom built, custom tailored for you. And you should continually review, monitor, and update that plan. I think it's very important.
That is huge, and make sure that you still have growth, but also have the right balance. You don't want,
it's all about balance.
You don't want it all under the mattress, as we say, right? Yeah, you can't have all you're going to lose money to inflation. You mentioned that earlier. Well, we're going to take another quick break here, but before we do, now we're going to give away 10 copies of your book. There it is. Empower Your Retirement. Plan for the best, but prepare for the worst. Jason, you wrote a great book, and it covers a lot of what we're talking about and more. And for our listeners out there, to get their very own copy, you don't have to go to Amazon and buy it, although you can if you want. All you have to do, we'll send you a copy at no charge to you, no postage. I know you and the team there at Great Lakes love to give out copies of these books. So the next 10 people that call this number and leave a message or let them know, hey, I heard about it on the show, I want a copy of the book, all they have to do is call 989-835-7203. That's 989-835-7203. Again, ask for the book, Empower Your Retirement. Welcome back to your Financial Empower Hour. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore, and I'm here with our host, Jason Cryderman. Jason, great show so far today. We're talking about the worst retirement advice that people out there might still be following or getting, and we've covered a number of them. What's next on the list? What's number 4?
So number 4 is my house is my retirement plan. I've heard this a lot. Again, over 23 years of being a trusted fiduciary advisor, a house is not a retirement plan. A house is a variable in your plan. It's an element of your overall plan, but I would encourage you not to consider it as a retirement plan. And what do I mean by that? Well, some people say, gee, I'll just take money out of my house later because once I pay it off, I'll have equity and I can just take money out of it. Well, the reality is when we go to take money out of our house, home equity, number one, it's pretty illiquid, right? You can't just go to the bank and in 5 minutes or 5 hours, or maybe even 5 days, get money out of there. You're going to be limited and restricted. It's going to take some time. And all honesty is it's expensive. Because if you want to pull some money out of the house, you go get a home equity line of credit or something. It's going to cost you an interest rate of maybe 4 to 8%, depending on what interest rates are running at that time and credit and other numbers. So I would encourage you to not fall back on that your house is your retirement plan. Yes, remember, it can be a very powerful tool or variable within that retirement equation. And there are times where you may leverage the home and some equity there. But let's not count on it as your plan. Okay. So that's number 4. You got to also think about with the home. It's actually expensive. There's property taxes, there's maintenance, there's insurances. Those all continue. Those are all expenses. So that's actually a pretty darn expensive. When you add those up, that's a very expensive retirement income source, retirement income plan. So you may not want to look at it as that's my plan. And downsizing is often harder than expected. This is a reality we've seen, Tony, over the years. I mean, interest rates don't have, I mean, they've been high, right? They were low for a while. They went way up there. Now I think they're still high. I've heard they're getting close to being normalized, but interest rates are high. The housing market, houses are more expensive now than I think. I mean, it's crazy, the cost of building and the cost of houses, and there's just not a lot of inventory, and it's location. And so sometimes downsizing isn't always the best option either. Okay. So
Right.
there's some just things to think about when those of you that think, well, my house might be my retirement plan, or I might get some of my retirement income from the equity I've built inside my house.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's a good one. I think a lot of people have that misconception, but you're probably going to need that money to buy a new home, even if you're downsizing
Right.
or to live
Mhm.
on. And plus, you're still going to have property taxes, upkeep if you have a
Yeah,
home.
that's right.
So you have to take all those things into consideration. What's the next on the
So
list?
the next one's a biggie. The next one, Tony, we talk about and I preach about on this show in my book. There's 2 or 3 chapters in my book to talk about taxes. I do monthly educational classes called Taxes in Retirement. Why? Because it's one of those things. If you don't know about it, it can destroy you. It can destroy your spouse. It can destroy your kids and grandkids. Taxes in retirement is definitely one of the biggest areas that I've met. My experience over the last 23 years, met so many people that think taxes will be lower in retirement. I don't have to worry about it. When I'm in retirement, I won't make as much income, so I'll be in a lower tax bracket. Part of that sentence was 100% true, Tony. When you're in retirement, most people don't make as much income. However, there's a lot of people in retirement, and some of you are shaking your head yes right now. There's a lot of people in retirement. You actually end up making just as much, if not more, especially later in life when you reach the age which is called required minimum distribution and you have to start taking money out of your IRAs or 401ks. That amount could push you into as high or higher tax bracket. And again, it's not the amount of income, it's the tax bracket. And this is really devastating, Tony, for single individuals in retirement, especially if you had a husband and wife and
Yep.
all of a sudden one of them passes away. The amount of income and the tax bracket that widower finds themselves in can be devastating. And
Yeah.
if you don't know that and you can't help them plan and prepare for that, that is hurting you. That
Yeah,
will hurt
filing
you.
single is a lot not as beneficial as filing
No.
jointly.
And I challenge everybody, just go out and Google it. Go out and Google when you get 5 minutes, Google tax brackets for married filing jointly, and then Google the tax brackets for single individuals. Take a look at the income amounts and the tax brackets. You will be blown away by the amount of income that a married couple can have and be in a lower or regional tax bracket. Look at that same amount of income, and it could be double or more of a tax bracket for a single individual. So
Yeah.
something you have to know and you have to be proactive and plan and prepare for ahead of time. And that's something that we do as fiduciary advisors with every single one of the clients we serve, is not only look at what are our taxes and tax implications today, but what is a long-term tax strategy and tax plan. Because if you don't think about RMDs, required minimum distributions, if you don't think about the potential taxation on Social Security, and if you don't think about Medicare surcharges, that's a tax, that's a premium tax on based off of what our income was 2 years prior. If you don't think about those things as an individual element, but now think about them as a compounding element, Tony, that once we're 65 and we take Social Security, or let's say we take Social Security at 65, and maybe it's not taxed, or maybe only up to 50% is. And all of a sudden, then we take Medicare, and that's based off our income of 2 years ago. And let's say maybe that's just normal. And then all of a sudden we hit 73 and we have to take a required minimum distribution from our IRA dollars. Well, now that gets added to how much of our Social Security is going to be taxed. We've seen over the years, some people go from having zero Social Security taxed all the way up to 85%, simply because they were forced to take a required minimum distribution out of their IRAs, and now they're in as high or higher tax bracket than when they were working. And
Yeah,
that
which
also
because of
cause your
IRMAA.
and that'll also cause because of IRMAA, that'll cause your Medicare premiums to go up in 2 years,
Yep.
as much as double, triple, or quadruple.
Yeah.
Now you tell me if these things, well, I didn't know about that, it can't hurt me. Again, capital B, capital S, that's BS. The things you don't know about, the things your friends, neighbors, relatives, current advisors are not proactively telling you about and helping you build a plan for the future to reduce, minimize, mitigate, get around these potential problems, they can and will destroy you or start destroying or devastating you, your spouse, and your loved ones financially in retirement. And as a fiduciary advisor, that's my number one goal and job I set out to do every single day with every family I meet. Help identify where you are, help identify if there's any potential problems or opportunities, and help identify for you, whether you choose me or not, that's up to you. But I want to help identify for you, how can you potentially fix your problems or work on fixing them over time? And how can you work on taking advantage of those opportunities to put you and your family in a better financial position? Because what you don't know can definitely be hurting you.
All right. Well, I think that's a great note to wrap up the show on. I think that was fantastic. And we have more. I think we're going to continue this. We'll do part 2 on this topic next week and talk about some more things that people may be getting wrong or thoughts they might have that might be incorrect regarding what they need to be doing to prepare for retirement or once they're in retirement. And the key is having a plan. You wrote a book on it. We're going to give away more copies of that book. It's called Empower Your Retirement. And we're going to give away 10 more copies for the next 10 people who contact your office, Great Lakes Investment Advisors. And all they have to do is call this number and mention they heard about it on the show. The book is Empower Your Retirement. Call 989-835-7203. That's 989-835-7203. Jason, great show today, buddy.
Yeah, great show, Tony. Real quick, just for my viewers and listeners, if there's any questions you have on the topics we talked about today, please call me, email me, get a hold of my office, go to our website. I want to help answer these questions and make sure you understand where you are so you're not blindsided and those things you don't know can't hurt you. If there's other topics, you're like, well, wait a minute. What about this? You didn't talk about this, or is this? Just call the office. I'd be more than happy to have a 15, 20 minute, half-hour phone call with you. Sit down with a no cost, no obligation visit. We'll have some cookies and coffee. I am here and my team is here, Tony, as you know this, for my viewers and listeners to help educate and empower them to make better decisions with their hard-earned money. My grandfather, my dad's dad, said multiple times before he passed away from cancer, he would get second opinion after second opinion after second opinion. Tony, he bought a motorhome and traveled the country to cancer centers. And I asked him, Grandpa, why do you keep getting these second opinions? Tony, he looked me in the eye and he said, the only time a second opinion can hurt is when you don't get it.
Yeah.
That's why financially, my dad and I set out to give a complimentary, no cost second opinion to help people identify those things they don't know that could hurt them. We want to help educate them proactively ahead of time so they can truly plan for the best, but prepare for the worst.
All right. Well, great show today, Jason. Listeners and viewers, thanks for tuning in. Again, that phone number, 989-835-7203.